All right, fantastic. And now we are live on YouTube. Hello to everyone who is watching us there on YouTube and or Facebook. Hello to those of you who are here in person. We're so glad to have you join us for our time of worship together. We are very excited for this. And in particular, we're very excited for our annual meeting that is coming up. Yay, annual meeting. We have a great time with that. And we can't wait to tell you all more about it. So we'll start off with some singing, a chance just to be able to focus on what's coming up for us as a church. And then, our message for the day from one of my favorite stories from all of the Bible. And then, yes, we will dive into our annual meeting and what is next for us as a church. So let's do that together.
Let's stand and sing together. I hear the Savior say, thy strength indeed is small. Child of weakness, watch and pray. Find in me thine all in all. Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed in white as snow. Died, my soul shall fade, my lips shall sing that verse again one more time. And when before the throne I stand in him complete, Jesus died my soul to save, my lips shall still repeat. Sing it out. And Jesus paid it all to him I owe. My sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. My sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. He washed in white as snow. He washed in white as snow. And oh, praise the one who paid my debt and raised this life up from the dead. Oh, praise the one who paid my debt and raised this life up from the dead. Oh, praise the one who paid my debt and raised this life up from the dead. Oh, praise the one who paid my debt and raised this life up from the dead. Oh, praise the one who paid my debt. more time. The dead. Oh, praise the one who paid my debt and raised this life up from the dead. Jesus. That's a good response right there. My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly trust in Jesus' name. Sing that verse again. My hope is built. My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly trust in Jesus' name. In Christ alone, cornerstone, weak made strong in the Savior's love. Through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of all. Darkness seems to hide His face, I rest on His unchanging grace. In every high and stormy gale, my anchor holds within the veil. Let's sing that verse again from the top. When darkness seems to hide His face, I rest on His unchanging grace. In every high and stormy gale, my anchor holds within the veil. My anchor holds within the veil. Holy Spirit, we come to you this morning. A lot of us are bringing different things into the room today. But Holy Spirit, we ask that you calm our hearts. Let us be nowhere else but here. Let's say that again. Let us be nowhere else but here. So we take a deep breath. And we're right here. Let's sing this third verse together. When he shall come with trumpet sound, oh, may I then in him be found, dressed in his righteousness alone, faultless stand before the throne. Sing that verse again. When he shall come. When he shall come with trumpet sound, oh, may I then in him be found, dressed in his righteousness alone, faultless stand before the throne. Sing faultless. Faultless stand before the throne, faultless stand before the throne. You share a new song with us this morning. I've been kind of sitting on it with it for a couple of weeks. It's called Give Me Jesus. And I will sing the chorus first so that we kind of know where we're going. Give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. You can have all this world, you can have all this world. One more time. Give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. You can have all this world. You can have all this world. So one of the things I love about this song, especially the chorus, is that it invites us in to forget about all of the stresses and the pressures that the world seems to put on us, all the anxiety. We can leave that at the door in this room. We get to come in and be present here now. So the verses sound like this. And I don't want anything but you. You're more than every dream come true. All of the things I thought I wanted don't come close to knowing you. Now that I'm yours and you are mine, our love's the secret that I find. I'll spend forever in the pleasure I found looking in your eyes. Here's our chorus. Give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. are the treasure that I hold. Now that I've tasted of your goodness, nothing else will satisfy. Sing it together. Give me Jesus, give me Jesus. You can have all this world. You can have all this world. Just give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. You can have all this world. You can have all this world. I don't want anyone else. I don't need anything else. And you are my one thing. You are my one. Keep singing that. I don't want anything else. I don't need anything else. You are my one thing. You are my one. Keep singing. I don't want anyone else. I don't need anything else. You are my one thing. You are my one thing. I don't want anyone else. I don't need anything else. You are my one thing. 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 Just give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. You can have all this world. You can have all this world. Give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. You can have all this world. You can have all this world. Just give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. You can have all this world. You can have all this world.
Holy God, let that be our prayer, not just today, but every day. Again, it's a world that is screaming for our attention, desperate to hold our focus, and it does, I think, for all of us from time to time. It's a good reminder that although the things of this world are important, when our eyes are focused on you, they find their proper place in our life. Pray that we might be able to do that individually, as a community, and broader as well. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. Hey, before you find your seats, why don't you go ahead and turn and greet someone near you. Go ahead. On a scale of 1 to 10, what's your excitement for an annual meeting? Go ahead and share that with the person next to you. Fantastic. All right. All righty. Excellent. It is good to have you all here and chatty, very chatty today. It's a good thing to be chatty in church. Not a bad thing at all. Excellent, excellent. Good. How many of you're a 5 or higher for the annual meeting, right? Aw, come on now. Come on. Right? There's some of you did not grow up in the church and have not been to some really bad annual meetings. Like Hope, we have good annual meetings. They're so fun here. This is the only church you've ever experienced. I kind of want to send you to another church just to experience. But you have to come back. All right, so it's good having you all here. Thank you. Welcome to Hope, where we believe a relationship with Jesus Christ can change your life. That is why we do what we do. We're so glad to have you here joining us today. I'm the pastor here, Bill Wallace. And we've got some really cool things coming up that we're very excited about that my friend Simone and I are going to tell you all about. So, first off, our friends Frank and Kathy are going to hand out some cards. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
Look at that. Oh, and Susan, too. Thanks, Susan. Appreciate that. Very good.
We made it. We're chilling.
There we go. Solid.
Hey, everyone. Yeah, we're going to have some Connect cards passing around. And if you'd like, we have hard copies of the budget for the meeting afterwards. You can snag one of those right now. Those will be coming around as well if you haven't gotten them yet. But fill out a Connect card in person or online at Church Center by Planning Center. There's an app for that or a website. Fill out as much as you're willing to put and give us any prayer requests you might have or any ways that you want to get connected. We love to hear from you in that way.
Perfect. That'd be it. And then, yes, our annual meeting is coming up right after this. And so I'm hoping that you are planning on spending an extra bit of time with us today, not just our normal time of worship, both online. Please continue to watch. The YouTube stream will just keep going right after that. We'll get a donut, get a cup of coffee, and then come right back in for our time together. Again, it's always important. We talk a little bit about the budget. We get to celebrate what we were able to do this last year. You get to meet your leadership team and your finance team as well. And then today especially, we're going to start a conversation that we hope will continue all through 2022 about what kind of church we want to be. That's a very important conversation, but honestly, we need your feedback on that. So we'll be looking for that in person and online. Make sure you stick around online today. Super, super important for that. All right. This last week, we had our first Wednesday Night Live.
Yeah, we had our first Wednesday Night Live. It was awesome. We had a great meal cooked by the Keeps. It was so yummy. And then we split up into our groups, which what we will do again. We're the Sunday second act or art. We had some fun doing art, step-by-step artwork with Patty last week. I assume your Bible study was awesome.
Really fun. Actually, it really was. I normally would encourage people to be a part of a Bible study anyway, but what we do is we're focusing on the Sunday morning message a little bit deeper. In this particular series, there's some stories from John. There's so much going on. We just can't do it nearly at all the justice it deserves on Sunday morning. So this last Wednesday night was a ton of fun to go further in John 3. This next week, there's so much more to talk about in terms of what we're going to look at for John 4. So yeah, it's going to be a great time.
Cool. I haven't heard about that yet.
Very good. I know. Yeah, you got to do the other one. So that's it. Oh, yes. And then next week, finally.
Woo, Spoon Extravaganza.
Spoon Extravaganza. We're so excited about that. So 6th through 12th grade, we hope you're all here as we do all kinds of spoon-related activities all evening, 6 to about 7:30, maybe a little bit longer. It depends on how long Danger Spoons goes. Actually, the full title of it is Extreme Danger Spoons. That's one of the games that we will be playing. There will be EMTs on site just in case things get too out of hand. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Don't scare people away from
wow, that wouldn't scare me. That made me want to go, right?
Yeah.
We're going to be doing that. We're going to be having all kinds of food that you can eat with spoons. It's going to be a great time. So very much looking forward to that. Yes. You're going to be sorry that you're missing out.
Yeah, pretty sad.
I know. As is all of our, oh, that's right. That was exciting. What? Oh.
I don't know what this is.
Who knows what this is? It is the fight song, but it's for one school in particular. Look who's at the control. That's right.
Oh, okay, there we go.
That was a Husky fight song. That's right. If you Cougs want to, try and get in on the action, you got to join the sound team, I guess. So.
Yeah, woo, we have Super Bowl coming up. That's where we raise some money for Tackle Hunger. And we are doing a little bit of a joint. Last year we did like a telethon type thing where you're sending money online to support either the Cougar or Husky Fund because we don't really care about the teams in the Super Bowl this year.
Right, I know. Yeah, no one cares. You do?
Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well
And
said.
we'll also be collecting coins in person. So doing a little bit of a combo thing this year. So it's going to be really fun. We raised so much money for them last year, which is awesome. So we're hoping to do the same thing this year in the spirit of competition.
That'll be it. Yes, in 2 weeks from today, by the end of today, we will know who is in the Super Bowl. But again, that doesn't matter. Instead, we'll be asking you to donate either to the Husky Fund or the Cougar Fund. And whichever one wins, all of us up in the front will don their gear. We will wear either Husky gear or Cougar gear for the rest of worship service. It's going to be a great time. That's all happening on the 13th. And actually, those funds are open now, so you can start giving them to them online already. If you would like, we'll start advertising those on social media. Because, yeah, it was great. Last year we had people from all over actually donate to either one. Because it all just goes to a good cause. It goes to one of the meal ministries here in our area. All the money raised goes directly to that. It's a pretty neat thing. So that happens in 2 weeks, but you can start giving even now.
Yes, and if you give online or in person, you'll be entered into a raffle, and you could win some gear towards the team that you entered for.
Woohoo! That's right. Very good, very good. Boy, is that it? Yeah, there's a lot going on, I tell you.
Yeah.
Perfect. Kendall and Katie, you guys want to come on up? That'll be good. Excellent, excellent. Very good. Who's first? Katie's first? Awesome.
Hi, friends.
Hi,
How's it
Katie.
going?
Good, how are you?
We're good. Yeah.
Very good. We have our normal thing today.
Yes, yeah. After church service, 6th through 12th grade, we're going to get together downstairs, do a little check-in, see how you're doing, how your week's been, and then dive into the sermon a little bit.
Which will be very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason we're not going to see you at Spoon Extravaganza is because...
Because we have toddler event, and I have tiny humans, and they're providing food, so you best believe I'm going to be there instead. Although there's food at both events.
That is true.
But then I can eat this food in my pajamas, so...
I hadn't thought of
and not have to cook.
And not have to cook it.
It might not be all liquids. Yeah, that sounds like a positive.
Very
Yeah.
good. Yes, that's right. Our parents of toddlers, which is you and a number of folks that we've got. We are buying you dinner next Sunday evening. We're having it delivered directly to your house so that you guys can do a Zoom call together and then actually, yeah, I have an idea that neither of you two know about that you guys will be launching actually starting next week as well. I know, it's gonna be super fun.
These
it's
are actually
kinda,
our staff meetings.
It's kind of it's kind of a Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants type theme in terms of how that's going to go. I think it'll be very exciting.
That's one word for it.
It'll be great. So yes, if you have a toddler and have not yet connected with us, make sure you do.
Then
that.
we can get all of our toddlers to scream over Zoom at the same time. It'll be fun.
And also include in that, just again, if you haven't sent your order yet, please do that soon so we can make sure that we get that on there. And I've sent out the Zoom, and I have a special project as well for that I'm going to be individually reaching out, because at this current moment, we only have couples, and it happens to be right around Valentine's Day. So I have a little get-to-know-you activity for our different people. Again, single parents are welcome as well, just letting you know that that's something that will be in your emails. And sent individually to each person, not as a couple. Ooh. So have an activity for our Zoom. If you didn't get the Zoom and you do want it, yes, haha, then please let me know and I'll email that to you. And then for our kids, I have emailed out to all the kids that I know here with a couple of options for a movie day. So there's some that are in the afternoon, some that are weekdays, and some that are after church or in the evenings on weekends. So please respond. I think I've gotten 2 responses so far with what works best for you so we can try and get the most participation there. They're all towards the end of February. So please respond back to that. There will be dinner there so you can drop your kids off, go to a date night, go to a date lunch, whatever works for your family, and let us know.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you very much. And with that, 5th grade and younger, we can dismiss you guys for Kids Club. You can meet up with your Kids Club leaders in the back. That'll be excellent. For the rest of us, we're going to be looking at something out of John's story of Jesus, Gospel of John. That is the 4th book in the New Testament, about 2/3 of the way through your Bible. As we've mentioned over the last couple of weeks, we are actually using a Bible translation called The Message as our way of reading this story. Just because I love John. It is one of my favorite books in the whole Bible. And as such, we've talked about these stories quite a bit in our time here at Hope. And so I just wanted to add just a different wrinkle in terms of that. This story in particular, absolutely love. I love how Eugene Peterson gives this translation of it. So John chapter 4, verse 1. It's where we're going to jump in. This whole chapter tells just a really great, powerful story. We aren't able to read the whole thing, but we're going to read quite a bit of it. Jesus realized that the Pharisees were keeping count of the baptisms that he and John performed. although his disciples, not Jesus, did the actual baptizing. They had posted the score that Jesus was ahead, turning him and John into rivals in the eyes of the people. So Jesus left the Judean countryside and went back to Galilee. To get there, he had to pass through Samaria. We'll actually talk about that. He came into Sychar, a Samaritan village that bordered the field Jacob had given his son Joseph. Jacob's well was still there. Jesus, worn out by the trip, sat down by the well, and it was noon. A woman, a Samaritan, came to draw water. Jesus said, "Would you give me a drink of water?" His disciples had gone to the village to buy food for lunch. The Samaritan woman, taken aback, asked, "How come you, a Jew, are asking me, a Samaritan woman, for a drink?" Jews in those days wouldn't be caught dead talking to Samaritans. And Jesus answered, "If you knew the generosity of God and who I am, you would be asking me for a drink, and I would give you fresh living water." The woman said, "Sir, you don't even have a bucket to draw with, and this well is deep. So how are you going to get this living water? Are you a better man than our ancestor Jacob, who dug this well and drank from it? He and his sons and livestock and passed it down to us?" And Jesus said, "Everyone who drinks this water will get thirsty again and again. Anyone who drinks the water that I give will never thirst, not ever. The water I give will be an artesian spring within, gushing fountains of endless life." The woman said, "Sir, give me this water so I won't ever get thirsty, won't ever have to come back to this well again." And he said, "Go call your husband and then come back." "I have no husband," she said. "Well, that's nicely put. I have no husband. You've had 5 husbands. And the man you're living with now isn't even your husband. You spoke the truth there, sure enough." "Oh, so you're a prophet. Well, tell me this. Our ancestors worshiped God at this mountain, but you Jews insist that Jerusalem is the only place for worship, right? Believe me, woman, the time is coming when you Samaritans will worship the Father, neither here at this mountain nor there in Jerusalem. You worship guessing in the dark. We Jews worship in the clear light of day. God's way of salvation is made available through the Jews. But the time is coming, it has in fact come, when what you're called will not matter and where you go to worship will not matter. It's who you are and the way you live that count before God. Your worship must engage your spirit in the pursuit of truth. That's the kind of people the Father is looking out for, those who are simply and honestly themselves before Him in their worship. God is sheer being itself, spirit. Those who worship Him must do it out of their very being, their spirits, their true selves, in adoration. The woman said, "I don't know about that. I do know that the Messiah is coming. When He arrives, we'll get the whole story. I am He," said Jesus. You don't have to wait any longer or look any further. And we'll end our reading right there for now. All right. So we've done this from time to time, and I thought, again, with everything going on, this would be a fun thing to do. There are all kinds of additional things that we could focus on in terms of our time together here this morning. And so I would love it if you would choose one of these 3 questions that we're going to post on there. You can text in 1, 2, or 3, and then I'll answer one of them at the end of our time together. So you can text into 425-343-7579. How does Jesus fulfill and also break the pattern of meeting at the well? There's a really interesting history in terms of that. There is the perception about what's important in this story has changed throughout church history. It's really fascinating to look at. We could talk about how did that happen, how is it seen now, and is this the first instance of worship wars and who won? A fun little thing to look at there. So, which one of those 3 is the one that you are most interested in? Go ahead and text in 1, 2, or 3 to that. And at the end of our time together, we'll come back and we'll look at those. So, 425-343-7579. Text 1, 2, or 3. There you go. About this story, which I will say is one of my favorites of all time. I love it. I absolutely love it. If you've been around Hope for a while, you know that to be true because you've heard me talk about it essentially every year. We preach on this text just about every year because I think it is so instrumental both to Jesus' story and quite honestly to the story of hope. It says so much about what we are about. We know not everyone here is a Christian, and we think that's great. This should be a place to come and ask questions and try and figure this Jesus stuff out, and that is this story. A woman who is not a Jesus follower who has great, great questions. And as she gets a chance to ask those questions, some pretty remarkable things happen. But the fact that it happens at all is remarkable in and of itself. I've been saying for the month of January, we've been looking at what we call unexpected conversations. Jesus has those all the time, a number of different unexpected conversations that we see all over the place. But this is the unexpected conversation of all unexpected conversations. Yeah, my friend, do you have a question? Mm-hmm. Yep.
It sounds weird, but like, what if, like, for example, what if the Holy Spirit made mistakes, you know?
Oh.
But like, Jesus never made mistakes. But people would be like, why did the Holy Spirit make so much mistakes?
It is a really good question. We would say that actually the Holy Spirit doesn't make mistakes because.
I don't know how it works, but I get confused. Because I have him, then he goes away, it seems like, or I don't know.
Yeah. I'd love to talk with you about that a little bit later. That'd be fun. No, that's all right. No. It's a good question. Really good question. Yeah. With this particular unexpected conversation that we're having right here, if it doesn't strike you as that, if it doesn't leap out to you, that's totally understandable because of all the cultural stuff that's going on that can be lost on us in terms of where we're at. So here's the basics in terms of why this conversation really shouldn't happen. Number one, it's a Jewish man having a one-on-one conversation with a Samaritan woman. And that right there, like that never happens. It ever happens. Not only the fact that it is a Jewish man having a one-on-one conversation with a Samaritan woman, but this Jewish man also happens to be the Son of God at the exact same time. So that's the setup. And that is the setup, that, as Eugene Peterson said there, that Jesus is traveling from one place to another and has to go through Samaria. Well, that's kind of true and not entirely true. Actually, if we take a look at kind of how this plays out, you see that Jesus has been south, and what we now see is kind of modern-day Israel, and then he's moving north. We've got this area called Samaria that often breaks up the Jewish people from that standpoint. Okay.
Good, man. It's like sad, man. But I don't know. I'm trying to go to treatment. I love the Javity, man. I love the Javity. You got that moment? I didn't mean to bother her.
No, you're good. Thank you. Appreciate that.
I really hope I make it to treatment.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, you, Brandon. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love God so much, and I just, you know what's messed up too?
Mm-hmm.
That substance, I'll get so into life, I'm like, man, I'm gonna get a job. I got everything lined up.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next day I wake up and I'm depressed as
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
It's like, man, this is stupid. I don't know. But when I all have the energy, but the controls do it too, though. There's controls, right? So if the controls give the energy when the substance is going on, then the controls like to make fun of me. And then when I'm sober, they like to be like, look, now you have no energy, and they like to make fun of me. They like to be like, they're jealous, like you're not gonna make it. They don't want me to make it. It's the government or whatever, or I don't want to make fun of them, or not say it's them. I don't know who it is. I'm not saying the government. I'll get you. I don't want to say it's them.
All right, all right.
Anyway, you guys have a good day. I don't want to interrupt you.
No, thanks, man. Yeah, thanks for chatting.
Okay. You guys have a great day. I hope I get into treatment.
Yeah.
I hope you guys have a good life and hope God answer all your prayers and get all your blessings.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for chatting with him, Brandon. Appreciate that. Cool. All right. Let's talk about here in terms of where we're at. So we've got Jesus trying to go from one spot to another. Hopefully you can see up there on that map that often, the most direct route is to, of course, go through Samaria, but most Jews don't because they don't want to go through Samaria. They do not want to have that kind of stain, that taint on them of having spent time with that. So they would literally cross over the River Jordan, go around Samaria, and then cross the River Jordan again once they have gone far enough in order to pick back up into it. So yes, you have to go to Samaria, but if you don't, well, then that's better for you. But Jesus chooses to walk through. And he does that because he, again, believes that he has come for everyone, that he is there for all people. Jesus wants to be the person that unites others, doesn't divide others. Jesus comes for people in Western Washington and Eastern Washington. He comes for Huskies and Cougars. He comes for people who like Wordle and those of you who hate Wordle, right? There's Jesus for all, and that's what his goal is. And he's trying to live that out as he does this, going through Samaria, stopping at this place at high noon. The disciples go to get some food for lunch, and Jesus is there when this woman comes by, and he asks her for a drink of water. Now, I want to say, again, that I grew up knowing this story and loving this story. And the way that I grew up knowing this story and loving this story, I was wrong. Because I grew up believing that this woman was kind of a hussy. That she was a player. Kind of a Real Housewives of Samaria type thing, right? That was how she was moving about throughout that town at the time. And I want to say that I was almost certainly wrong about that. Anybody else grew up? That's how you believed? I just admitted it, so it's okay if you admit it too, right? That's how I grew up believing to be true about her story, and it's almost entirely wrong. Why do we know this? Because of the culture of the time. And the culture of the time, and I want to be really clear as we talk about this very, very bluntly, this is the culture of the time. This is not how God nor Jesus wanted things to be, and it's not how it should have been. But at the time, she was dependent always on a man being in her life. So she couldn't divorce her husband. She couldn't leave her husband. That's not how it works. Women could not just leave their men. In many ways, they essentially belonged to their men. They had to in order to be protected in that society. It was a patriarchal society. That's why when you got married, one of the most important things that you had right away was you had a son, so that your son would be responsible for you if and when your husband died or left or whatever it may be. So one of two things is almost guaranteed to be her story. Number one, either her first husband died. And when her first husband died, she didn't have a son. And so part of the law was that if you are widowed and your husband has died, that you become a spouse. if you could use that word, of his brother or his next closest relative. So you get passed to him. And if he doesn't want you, then he passes you on to the next male relative, and to the next, and to the next, with the men always choosing whether or not they keep you, and you just having to keep going. That's probably the better part of the scenario. That's assuming that her husband died. Because the other option is that although she could not divorce her husband, she could not leave him, he can leave her at any time. The male in the society could divorce their wife for any reason whatsoever, dismiss her, leave her. And he goes about his merry little way, and she is cast out in a world where women have no power and no authority and no voice. So what do? You hope that you might become the second or third or fourth wife of a guy who's taking more on. And then if he gets tired of you, it happens again, and it happens again. I cannot imagine that life. I cannot imagine it happening in our day today. I cannot imagine it happening to me. But we need to name this. This woman is not a serial sinner. She has been serially abandoned. She has been serially dismissed, and my heart breaks for her. And she comes to the well now, at the hottest time of the day. She comes at noon when no one else is there because no one else is there. Because she doesn't want to be reminded of her life. She doesn't want the eyes, and she doesn't want the stares, and she doesn't want the snide comments that everyone says about the woman that has been discarded 5 different times. She comes at this time because she doesn't want to be seen. And today when she shows up, Jesus sees her. There's something incredibly powerful about being seen. I think it's scary. I think we're all a little afraid of that, which is funny because we live in a time when we can broadcast our lives all over as much as we want. And we do. Kind of. We can post on any type of social media or post in any type of chat whatever we want about ourselves, and so we show the world what we want them to see about our lives. Even the hard stuff, we only share the stuff that we want people to know we're struggling with. We don't show all of it. To do so would be terrifying because people might really see us, fully and wholly see us. And for most of us, I will say for myself, that's an awful idea. I would not want to be truly seen. And yet that's exactly what Jesus does to this woman. He shows up. He sees her, he names her truth, and he offers her living water because of it. It's incredible. It's cool because Jesus always uses the language that seems to fit the situation, right? He's so good at this. He's out on a boat. He's got the perfect metaphor about fishing that he gets to share. He's multiplying loaves of bread. He can tell you all about bread of life. He's here at a well. What's he going to do? Talk about living water. And it's so perfect because water always finds the lowest point and goes right to it. Remember a couple of weeks ago, we had all this amazing snow that buried our entire county, right? We are one of the happiest things that is true for my life right now is that both Sarah and I can park our cars in the garage. Like there is so much joy that we live at that stage of life where I don't have to live with my car outside of a garage. So we would, go and travel about, and then we'd go in. And Sarah, in particular, has the larger car, and so she would park her car. And one thing happened every single night after she would go out and drive, and she would park her car within the garage. All the snow that had gathered on her car would melt and go to the lowest point of our garage. You may think your garage is flat until you have snow melt in your garage every single day. I can tell you exactly what is the lowest part of my garage because Lake Wallace was there for 2 weeks, and it was not near the door. Water always finds the lowest point. And living water does the exact same thing. It finds this woman at her lowest point, as she has been dismissed and discarded over and over again. And Jesus offers her living water at the point that she needs it most. Not to dig in, not to hurt her in any way, not to shame her, but to wash her clean, to come to her lowest point and wash the sorrow and the sadness all away. And that's been the point of this whole thing. Jesus didn't have to go through Samaria. He did. He didn't have to get to the well at this time. He does. He didn't have to strike up the conversation with this woman. He does. Why? Because he wants to offer her living water. It's all for this conversation. It's all for this moment. It's all for this opportunity. And the best part of the story, we hid it from you a little bit. We ended the story right beforehand. Jesus has this conversation. He has all this moment. He talks about all these things. He offers her living water. And in verse 28, this is what she does. The woman left her water jar beside the well and ran back to the village, telling everyone. And on she goes. She leaves her water jar behind because she doesn't need it anymore. She doesn't need that. She has living water in her life from here on and forever. It's a gift. It's a blessing. It is all she needs. And for that, it's one of my favorite stories of all time. Would you pray with me? Well, God, thank you so much for your son, Jesus, for an opportunity just to, again, be reminded that there is a gift of living water for all of us in our lowest point, in our hardest time, the beauty of what that means. Pray that we might be open enough to receive that. It's a little scary to be seen, to be known, to admit that maybe we need living water in our life. The gift of that, it's incredible. And it's offered each and every one of us. Pray that we might receive that this day and each day. In your name we pray. Amen. Again, thank you. That was such an interesting thing. I kind of just want to name that. Church is this formal thing, and there's this time where we get a chance to have conversation. And then, it can become a dialogue, but, at what point do we do that? Thank you so much for going. I wanted to make sure that he had a person to talk with.
Yep. His name's Jedediah.
That's cool.
And, he really wants to stop using.
Mm-hmm.
But as we know, addiction is a tough thing. It's really, really hard. And so I asked him if there's anything else he needed or wanted. He really wanted to come back in and meet everybody in real time.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe not now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But he seems like a good dude.
All right.
He has a good heart. But he's trapped.
Yeah.
He's trapped. It's hard to see.
Yeah, it is. Very good. Thank you.
Grander earth has quaked before, moved by the sound of his voice, and seas that are shaken and stirred can be calmed and broken for my regard. Through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, it is well. Through it all, my eyes are on you. It is well with me. Far be it from me to not believe, even when my eyes can't see. And this mountain that's in front of me will be thrown into the midst. Let's stand and sing that verse again. Far be it from me to not believe, even when my eyes can't see. And this mountain that's in front of me will be thrown into the midst of the sea. Through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, it is well. Through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well, it is well. So let it go, my soul, and trust in him. The waves and wind still know his name. So let it go, my soul, and trust in him. The waves and wind still know his name. The waves and wind still know his name. Well, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well. It is well with my soul. 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 It is well. It is well with my soul. It is well. It is well. It is well with my soul. It is well. It is well. It is well with my soul. Through it all, it is well. Through it all, my eyes are on you. It is well with me.
Amen. Amen. Go ahead and find your seats if you will. Perfect. All right. Katie, where are you? Did she go out? Oh, good. Perfect. Good. Because I totally forgot that. I was like, I don't know. It's all good. Yay, Katie. All right. It was number 2. Excellent. All right. The perception about what's important in this story has changed throughout church history. How did this used to be known? How is this seen now? And actually, part of it is even just in terms of what I read and how we did it. So we'll talk about that a little bit. It is fascinating. Again, if you're a church history nerd, this is fascinating. I hope it's fascinating for all of you as well. But someone just recently actually did their doctoral dissertation on this particular story and looked at how it was talked about throughout the course of church history. And they were able to, again, go back and see when it's written about by church leaders and church historians, and when it's used in sermons and so on and so forth. And up until about the Reformation, it was generally viewed in one way, and post-Reformation, it was viewed in a very different way. Pre-Reformation, the highlight of this story is when the woman goes and tells the rest of her village all about Jesus. That's what happens after we got that. It starts with that verse 28 where she leaves her water jug behind. She goes to the rest of the village and tells them all about Jesus. They all come to hear about Jesus, and they all come to faith in Jesus. The highlight of this story, pre-Reformation, is this woman being a witness and telling people about Jesus. And post-Reformation, it's about her being a sinner and her being forgiven by Jesus. Fascinating shift. It's a fascinating shift. And you can look at that a couple of different ways. One, from a Reformation standpoint, again, that is the beauty of the Reformation, is being reminded, because we needed that shift in Reformation thinking, that we couldn't earn our way into heaven, we couldn't buy our way into forgiveness, we couldn't do all those things like that. No, Jesus just offers us living water right where he meets us. That's the good way of looking at it. And the bad way of looking at it is that a woman who tells other people about Jesus now is no longer known for that. Because post-Reformation, we don't want women telling other people about that. Isn't that interesting? Very interesting. And again, pre that, there isn't a whole lot about that. But they're doing more and more studies, and they're seeing this kind of push to have essentially just male leadership, although that's kind of our thought from the Catholic Church. Within that, women were talked about pretty well, even within the Catholic Church for a long, long time. The idea that only men could be pastors and only men could tell people about Jesus, that's a pretty recent phenomenon in the life of the church. And it is one of the reasons why, if you've been around here, you hear me every time we have a woman doing a role that she's not supposed to do, I usually pause and highlight that. Because I think it's important, because historically that's actually been a huge part of the church. And it's much more of a recent thing that we have dismissed that. So that's absolutely true, definitively proven by some poor doctoral student that did all of that work just so we could now learn about it. So pretty fascinating thing. All right. Yes, we are going to, and just take a couple of minutes here to go over our last things. Again, encourage you to get a cup of coffee, grab a donut, and then come right back in so we can jump into our meeting. We've got lots of stuff to talk about. If you're not giving online, we hope that you are. If you are not yet part of our Remind text group, please do that. That's the next one where you can text at Hope Sermon to that number 81010. That gets you on that. We'll be doing that. It'll be fun. And yeah, it is both scary and powerful to be truly seen. How can we live that out and seeing those around us? I think that's a good question for us to ponder this week. Okay, yes, as we say every single week, slightly modified. Don't just go to church, be the church, and don't go anywhere. Okay, all right, good, perfect. All right, excellent. And again, can we switch? Thank you there, sir. The amazing Mr. Hurst in the back. Excellent, very good. If you're out there still chatting, you feel free to. Encourage you to come on in if you're able. Take a look at what we got here. Very good. Welcome to our annual meeting I am going to have to draft someone, I realize. Very good. Anybody got a laptop on them? Very good. Simone's going to do it. All right. We need official minutes for this. This is one of the things I forget about. So if someone would actually, bring the meeting to order, that would be me doing that at 11:16. That'd be good. Perfect. Good. Thank you for joining our 2022 congregational meeting. Those of you watching online, we hope we still got some folks there as well. You should be able to chime in on the chat as needed. Greg, are you able to watch the chat as well? No, the other Greg. Margot can? All right. Thanks, Margot. So jump in there with a question if you need to. I want to be able to try and engage everyone in terms of where they're at, which probably gets us to our first slide. We are a work in progress, still very much from a full church standpoint. We actually even decided to leave up our backdrop with you as a work in progress. We've been having fun building this. It's been a good time, and we actually really like what we're doing with the lower stain. We think how that contrasts that out. Simone and I were debating whether or not we wanted to finish it up this weekend or not, and I was sitting here on Friday, and I thought to myself, you know what? No, I like the metaphor that it is for our meeting today. So we left all the tape up, left it half done, just so that we could be reminded. Very much as a church, we are a work in progress. We probably always are, but we really are right now, and that's one of the things we're going to be talking about. Every year that we have had our annual meeting, we have gone through this, our Hope Code of Conduct. It is not unique to us. We think that there are other people that have done this. We found this somewhere and adapted it to us. We just think it says so well what is important to us from a Hope Partner standpoint. And if you're unsure if you are a Hope Partner, if you're here, you probably are. That's kind of one of the things in terms of how we operate. We don't necessarily want to do traditional church membership that is about what you get. Church partnership is about what you get to do. It is about your choice, taking ownership of this ministry and working on this together. And so we kind of go through some of these things as a reminder that as a partner, this is how we treat both each other and the world around us. We seek to build each other up and not tear each other down. Each year that we do this, there are different ones that kind of stand out to me, both in terms of the life of the church and in terms of the life of the world around us. That first one, it's just where we're at, isn't it? The world around us is all about tearing each other down. That's our world. And I don't know if the 50 or 60 of us that are here as a part of this meeting can necessarily change the world, but maybe we can change the world around us if we build each other up instead of tearing each other down. We respect and honor the office of pastor and other lay leaders. That honestly, we could talk about that one too, and how we treat all of our leaders, whether we agree with them or not. We seek to communicate clearly, completely, and directly. That is a little bit more burden on us from a leadership standpoint. We try to do that, of course, in all areas, but that is probably one of the great frustrations with our world right now, is that we have a hard time figuring out how to do that, how to communicate well, and how to communicate that directly. We offer our opinions with charity and humility. Yeah, it's a good one. We make positive investments in each other's lives. We believe the best in each other and give each other the benefit of the doubt. I think about this one as well. Honestly, in the one that we just talked about, the woman at the well, there are a couple of different ways that we can talk about that, right? We can spin that in a couple of different ways. It'd be really easy to come up here and just spin the negative. But there is a positive in terms of how that needs to be looked at. It's important that we try and do that as much as we can. And here we get a little bit more church specific. We seek to discover what is best for our church as a whole, not what may be best for us or for some small group in the church. That's going to be really important in terms of our last conversation that we're going to have today. That's important all the time, but really important what we're going to talk about today. We accept disagreement, conflict, and evaluation as normal and natural. I know that's a really tough one. It's an important one to name. Particularly just from a family context. We learn this more and more from a family dynamic context. If you grew up in a family where disagreement and conflict were downplayed or they're seen as negatives or anything like that, and then you actually get in a church that says, no, this is a positive, you can see this is really triggering for people. It can be really, really challenging for folks. So it's important to name. And then finally, we are committed to being inconvenienced for the sake of the gospel. That holds true in so many aspects of what we do. If it is just for ourselves, if we are fully about what we want, then the gospel, then the good news of Jesus Christ is going to be shortchanged. And we need to do more than that. So that is a good reminder for us. Those are the rules by which we choose to hold ourselves to as we do that together. So a reminder about that. Excellent. As part of that, my friend Chris Jacks now is going to come up. You can grab either mic from that standpoint. So, they are, I know. Again, from a legal standpoint, as a congregation, we are congregationally run. So the Hope Church partners vote on a couple of things every year, and then there are some special things that would happen every now and then. There are only two things that we're voting on this year, one being the budget, and then one will be the leadership team. And so this has been worked on, as Chris will talk about. And this will be the one area where we will ask for a vote at the end. So we'll get to the part, and Simone will write down that it needs to be moved and then seconded. So someone who will move this, someone will second it, and then hopefully pass it. So we'll make note of that. Chris.
Awesome, Mark. Can you guys hear me? This thing, perfect. Okay. So I've got a couple notes. My hope is that I'll run through a little bit of 2021 just for back history, 90, 60-second version of that, and then run through kind of how that led into 2022 and the budget planning and what you've hopefully seen. Again, hopefully you guys have seen the budget sitting out there, clicked on the link in the email, and if you have any question or anything, but my hope is I'll ramble for a little bit, and then if you guys have questions or thoughts, concerns, fire away, and I'll do my best to answer them, and then hopefully somebody will move in second, and we'll pass the budget and keep going. So that's the plan anyway. We'll see where we get. From 2021 standpoint, we actually ended up the year with a net surplus in terms of an operational budget standpoint of about $7,500. The reality is that our income was a little over projected, about 1,000, and our expenses were about 6,500 under projected, netting for a 7,500 operational budget actually in the black for 2021. The income giving was right as expected, actually about a couple $1,000s light, but I mean, when you're talking about projecting multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars in giving, that's pretty much right on line. And rental was actually a little bit higher than expected, which is how we ended up within $1,000 of kind of our expected revenue for the year, or income for the year. The way that the surplus, or we ended up positive in the expenses category, is that offices and operating expenses were nowhere near. The reality is we were in this building less in 2021 than we thought we were going to be. Obviously we would have, I'd rather not have been the black in that spot, but the reality is our office operating expenses, just the cost of keeping the church running, was significantly less than we expected. The other things were all within about $1,000 of expected. Facilities and staffing were one positive, one negative, but less than about $1,000 each. The reality, most of that 6,500 positive comes from we gave away a little more than we expected, and then we spent about 8,000 less than we thought on operating expenses. So again, for the year, about 7,500 in the black on the operating budget. I do need to name with that so everyone's clear. We did spend money out of savings to do some improvements around the church to the tune of about $17,000. You've seen that in the carpet in the rooms, some of the lighting changes. Overall, we spent about $17,000 on facilities and on building improvements or things out of, call them designated accounts, the savings account, basically. So the beauty of ending the year with an operational budget with about a $7,500 surplus is that we ended up, all the improvements we did only took a little less than $10,000 out of our savings to do what we felt were important, necessary improvements throughout the church. So that's the recap of 2021. Any questions on that real quick before I move into kind of 2022 and what we put in front of you guys? Or does that sound good? All right, perfect. You guys make this easy on me. I won't argue. So for 2022, I'm getting back to my notes just to make sure I don't misspeak and cause a problem. So giving, we're going to assume, our assumption is that giving would stay the same. Obviously, we'd love to have that be, giving blow away and open doors. But realistically, giving's been relatively consistent, and we're still in this environment that is not what any of us would consider normal or what we would look to. And so the assumption of leaving giving the same in 2022 is about what we saw in 2021. We are expecting an increase in rent in 2022, and that's due to reasonable rent raises, and realistically reasonable because on some of the people who use the church space, because they're using the space more than maybe we'd expected, or maybe more than they were in the past. So we have an expected revenue increase on rent of about $8,500, and that's because across all the groups, between the rental house and all the groups that rent this space and use this space, and I should name actually one of the reasons that number seems quite a bit bigger than the previous year. It's not all just rental increases. It's that the previous year we'd only had we had one other church tenant using this space, and we have two other congregations using this space now. So all in all, that's a long way to get to it. We're expecting a little higher revenue, really based on rent exclusively, because of the changes in 2022. Total staffing expenses will increase about $6,000 due to increased spending on youth leadership, janitorial, are the main two space, and then raises. The three areas that offset that staffing. A little more to janitorial because there's more people using the building. We need to spend more to keep it clean and ready to be used. And then there's two youth leaders now, one doing K through 5 and one doing 6 through 12, and that wasn't true previously. And then raises for the staff. So facilities and operating expenses, they're within 1% of the 2021. We moved some things around. It's really minutia. If that is your thing, I will dig into it with you. But a great example is operating and office expenses. We lowered that number down. We did not lower it down all 8,000 of our surplus because we're hoping to use the building more. But we moved some numbers around the reality of just kind of the operating expenses of the church outside of salaries and staffing costs. We're within 1% of what we spent in 2021 is what we expect to spend in 2022. Program expenses are up a little bit of money, but not a ton. And overall for the year, that puts us at about a $495 projected positive budget. The reality is we presented a break-even budget in the black last year. Realistically, $495 is essentially a break-even budget again. It's really the same. So that's kind of how we got to the 2022, expecting a little more revenue, spending a little more on staffing, and a little bit of that on programs, and hoping that budget is what we have for 2022. Questions around that information on the 2022? Anybody? Savings?
Is there a plan for savings?
No, yeah. So we have quite a bit of money in savings. I believe it's, off the top of my head, it's more than $250,000. It's less than $300,000 sitting in savings. And we do not have a specific plan of what we're going to do to spend that money or not spend that money. That is, we would, and again, everyone else on finance and leadership should speak in if you think I'm saying this poorly, but we've used that money for things as they've come up, like the carpet and the things like that. The conversation about what kind of church we want to be that's going to happen after this my opinion, personal, I'm not speaking for the finance team, that's the kind of conversation that would impact where and how you'd use that money differently. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Continuing to keep that account contributing to it, not how we're spending.
Okay. Yes, and so we don't have a plan that puts a budget in the black that grows that savings back up. I would say that we would love to be wrong on giving and end up with a budget in the black that does allow us to replenish that savings. We didn't think this year that we could come out and raise giving $20,000 and expect to present that budget to you as a congregation and be able to say we expect to hit this and present a budget like that. But the ways that we would grow savings are through giving or through rent or lowering expenses. And so at this time, I guess I'd answer that. Yes, go ahead. you very much. The two ways that we've gained savings traditionally have been through campaigns. Some of that is building specific money. People have given to a building idea and campaign, or memorial gifts. Those are traditionally, that's how that's been built up in the past. It hasn't been a little bit of surplus year by year by year. So I guess should we end up the way that account savings usually is built is through memorial gifts or designated campaigns. Does that better answer the question finally? You're letting me off the hook. I'll take it, but I'm happy to dig into it more if you want. But I'll take the out if you let me have it. What other questions? All right. Well, if we've got the information there, the next step would be to... Second, it's been moved and seconded.
Second was Steve Keep. Thank you.
All in favor of passing the 2022 budget as presented, raise your hand, say aye. Aye. All right. Are there any opposed? Speak now or forever hold. No kidding. All right. I see. Yeah. Perfect. All right. Done.
Thanks. Very good. Appreciate that. Mikey, do you want to come up and do this? Excellent. We've got a fresh microphone for you and everything. Look at that.
Ooh, I feel like I'm famous. Hi, for any of you that I have not met, I'm Mikey Trexel. I am currently the leadership chair for our leadership team. And I want to give a big thank you to our 21 team. We have been leading Hope in a way that we never really thought we'd be leading Hope, because we've been trying to up our online presence to support still reaching people that don't yet feel safe to come to church physically, and then also getting back in the business of having people at church, which is where we really want to be. So this year, serving on our team was myself, Adrienne Noel, Greg Walker, Wendy Jones, Mark Statham, and Chris Jacks. And Mark and Chris this year have decided to step down from the team. And so we are going to invite a few new members to our team. So at this time, I'd like to invite our 2022 team that we are going to present to you. This is another one of those areas where we need to vote on accepting the team. Our practice has been bringing the entire team up, presenting that to our congregation for a vote. Same thing, it's moved that we accept them, it's seconded, and then we vote. So our new members will be, I am continuing. And PB is a voting pastor. He is a voting pastor. PB is also a voting member as well, particularly when we get to places where if we have an even number and we're kind of have a split decision, he kind of helps as our leader to make those decisions. So we are adding this team. So I'm staying, Greg is staying, Adrienne is staying, Wendy is staying, and then also we are adding to our team Andrea Dell. So she is sitting on our finance team. She has graciously offered to sit on both teams, just as Chris has done the last few years. And then we're adding Chris Price, who is not here today, and Linda White. So if I can get our 2022 team members to come forward. Oh, yeah. Yes, and it's not me. I'm not giving the speeches anymore. So Chris Price wasn't able to be here today, but he is excited to join our team as well. Are there any questions about our team? So this is Adrienne. This is Linda White. I have a teacher voice because I work at a school. And this is Greg Walker. So Wendy is blonde and is on worship team often. Andrea is back there in the booth, waving her hands in the air like she just don't care. And then Chris Price is our other person that's joining us. All right? So at this point in time, I think we're ready to potentially take a vote.
The 2022 leadership team as proposed.
All in favor in accepting this team as it stands as your 2022 leadership team, say aye and raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. So welcome to our new members and our existing team. The other piece that we typically do that does not require an official vote, but they do a lot of work for us, is our finance team. So Chris Jacks not only is stepping away from leadership, but he's also stepping away from finance team. So we thank him for kind of doing both of those over the last couple of years. And we are continuing with Andrea Dell, who is going to be the chair of finance team. So she'll do similar to exactly what Chris did last year, attend leadership teams and be the connection between LT and FT. Janelle Sire and Kathy Klob will continue. And then we're adding Adrian Howard. Alan, sorry, I can't. There's a giant cross, and I see Alan and then a line. So if those members of our current finance team are here, can you stand and be recognized? Can you come forward? Yeah. So come on up. And then Andrea is still in the back, raises her hands in the air like she just don't care. So we don't officially take a vote, but it has been our practice to affirm them with a vote of confidence for taking on the important work of managing our money, because some of us like the help of the finance team to manage our money. Drama camp. Oh. So we acknowledge them with a vote of confidence. So please join me in welcoming them and have a vote of confidence in our finance team. All right. Thank you. All right.
But we were thinking we need to start this process. So for folks that have served, we've been so thankful for that, helping out on the leadership team and finance team. We just kind of wanted to figure out a way to say thank you. So we thought about it. So Mark and Chris, if you guys would come up, we wanted to say thank you, and just as a way of kind of acknowledging maybe where you're now moving to as well. So Mark has been doing a lot of facility stuff and wanted to do even more by not sitting on a committee to actually go do that. So we actually got you some gloves to help you as you get out and do that. Very good. And we had to make this because this was all online. Chris has been super excited about creating a golf group for Hope. Now all this is done, so we got you a gift card to Putz Golf as well to help out with that. So thank you guys both. Really appreciate it. Again, yes, absolutely. Yeah. That is great. Yeah. Yeah, you'll have no problem getting the golf ministry up and going. I think that'll be... That'll be perfect. All right. Let's talk about what kind of church we want to be. So we've been setting you up for this, honestly, for months, really even since the fall. And then we sent out a document this last week that had an important piece to that, and that was the thing we kind of just wanted to name. But now we're going to step back from that a little bit and talk about what that means. What kind of church do we want to be really is that question that I think just about every church in America needs to ask themselves over these last couple of years. Any church that wants to exist for the next 10 years needs to ask themselves this question, because it's different. It is all changed. Churches were pretty notorious for doing a lousy job of being forward-thinking and finding ways to reach new people with the timeless message of Jesus Christ. We've rarely done that well. If churches don't have that conversation well right now, they're going to close. Let's just name it for what it is. I think there are a number of industries that are going to be really challenged over these next couple of years. There are a couple of industries where people are going to retire in droves because they're exhausted and they're beat up, and they just can't imagine how they're going to continue to do it. We could talk about all that, but again, this is our meeting, so let's just talk about specifically what that means for churches. There are a lot of churches that are going to close in the next couple of years. If it's not your world, if you don't have lunch with pastors every Tuesday, maybe this isn't something that you guys see as much. I do. And it's over these last couple years, I thought we needed to have this conversation anyway. It's really true now. And I want us to be in front of that because a couple things, like we just talked about. Financially, we're doing, in the grand scheme of things, well as a church. We are doing pretty well for a church of our size and in terms of our finances. Both the money coming in, allowing us to operate as a church. Again, the highlight for me is that we gave away the second most amount of money we've ever given away this last year. The most amount was the year before that. Like, that's so cool. That's where we are at as a church, that we're able to do that. We have a really engaged leadership team and finance team. We've got some really great leaders. We are in a position where we can have these conversations. And if we don't have them now, then we're going to hand off to another generation of leaders, a church that will need to have the conversations that we avoided. We'll hand off to another generation, a church that will probably desperately need to answer some hard questions because we didn't answer them ourselves. And I don't want to do that. Right? I want us to step up now while we can. I want us to figure this out now while we can. And it's a little bit risky because things aren't all the way back. There still continue to be challenges for all kinds of different churches. But we got to start these conversations now. So we want to ask the question, what kind of church do we want to be? And we want to ask that question freely. And that's what led to that piece that we talked about in there. And again, if you guys didn't see that, we'll just name it for what it is. One of the reasons why we want to start having that conversation is that as a leadership team, as we've talked about, well, we could do this. We can engage in the community in this way. We can do this. We keep bumping up into pretty specific challenges, many of those related around our building. We love our building. It has been a blessing to us for 45 years. But at some point, every building starts to become a hindrance to what you want to do. That's true of every building. And you can decide to just ignore that, or you can be in the front of that and say, all right, what do we do about that? So, again, here's the thing. We could have a conversation about the building, but really, that's the second conversation we have, maybe even really the third or the fourth. The first conversation we need to have is, what kind of church do we want to be? And we need to be able to have that not thinking or worrying about the building. Because, again, we could say, well, we want to be a church that really is all in on kids, young kids. We want a preschool. We want an all-day daycare. We want to be able to do all that. Well, I can tell you right now, we can't, because this building is not up to code. So if we let the building decide for us, that's limiting what kind of church we want to be. So we want to say, hey, what kind of church do we want to be? And then when we decide that together, we're just going to do whatever it takes in order for that to happen. And so we just kind of wanted to name and acknowledge the reality that this building has probably seen its time. It's possible, of course, we have all these conversations and we decide that the kind of church we want to be involves a 45-year-old building that's not up to code. That is possible, of course. But more than likely, we're going to have conversations that's going to force us to say, all right, well, it's time to take this thing down. And either move or build a 5/2 structure or. And again, it's really tempting to want to start having those conversations. And I get that. I really do. But that's not where we begin. We begin here. What kind of church do we want to be? And if we can be any type of church that we want to be, let's dream it. Let's brainstorm it. Let's talk about it. Let's figure that out. Because we really believe that God will solve this part of it. I think that's the fear, right? We start to ask, well, if we had to move, where would we move to? Won't it be just as expensive? All those things like that. Those are all really, really good, legitimate questions. But we can't answer those until we answer what kind of church we want to be. That's where we need to begin. And we want your, essentially, approval for that, on doing that process. So we want to talk about kind of what that looks like. So we're actually, and this is a goofy thing. I'll freely own this. I've been at churches for many, many years, and I've been at a lot of churches that have presented pretty big ideas and pretty complicated information and asked for a vote on those immediately. And I've really learned the hard way that that's not the best way to do things. So this is a pretty big idea with a lot of complicated information. We're not going to vote on it today. Actually, what we're talking about doesn't even really require a vote, but we just kind of want to start this process this way. Hey, at the end of February, the last Sunday in February, we're going to ask for your approval to do this process for the rest of the year. Today is just a chance to really present it, answer some questions, and then over the next several weeks, we'll get some more information in your hands so that in February, then you'll be voting to just say, yes, have these conversations. Even that isn't a yes, sell the building. Like, we're nowhere near that, right? No one wants to have that. We just want to have the conversation. What kind of church do we want to be? And so at the end of February, we're going to ask for that. And then we're going to spend some time figuring that out. We'll talk about what that looks like. We might get to a more formal actual vote maybe by the end of the year, but that's not our concern. Our concern right now is that you guys just understand what we're talking about and are excited about what we're talking about, because we really are too. We want to talk about what kind of church we want to be. We want to start asking some really hard, really tough questions. Why are you here at Hope? And to actually name it, why aren't some of you here at Hope? Because at this point, we've been in this for a long time. We've had now vaccines for a long time. We've had masks for a long time. And there are different variants and there are different challenges, and we understand all that. But hope in terms of what it was before the pandemic and what it is now are two very different things. Some folks aren't here, and we need to ask why. We need to ask if they're ever coming back. Maybe there are folks that would come back if we stopped wearing masks. Maybe there's some folks that would come back if we forced everyone to wear, I'm sorry, force is the wrong word, required that everyone wear masks, right? Like, we don't know. We need to ask those questions. We need to start asking, what kind of church do we want to be? Do we want to be an online church? I mean, I'm good with that. I love doing online stuff. I can do video work, right? I can do podcasts. We had a ton of fun with the Curious Faith podcast. You know, we can do all that. But if we do that, I got to tell you, my tech team is amazing. They are incredible. They have MacGyvered this building to be able to do all the video and sound stuff that we do. It is ridiculous how they have done that. Can you imagine if we actually just gave them a real studio that wasn't 45 years old, that had all the cameras and all the sound stuff all set up to do that? If we want to be an online church, then let's do that instead of continuing to MacGyver what we've got. Do we want to be a church that engages in the community in ways that really lean into the arts? I mean, obviously, you all know I'm a theater person at heart. I would love a stage. That would be so fun. Not for me, but to get kids on it and to be able to present things like that. That would be so much fun, right? We could do any of those things. There's more. We could lean fully into some of the social ministries that are going on here in Everett. There's so many cool social ministries that we have supported this last year. But primarily we did that by supporting them where they're at, right? Claire's Place, Housing Hope. We did all that by supporting them. Is there something that we could do here? Do we want to even be here? Do we think that there is a need somewhere else in Snohomish County that if we were brave and moved there, that we'd reach people that no one else is reaching? Those are all really, really interesting questions to which we don't yet know the answer. But if we start asking the right questions, we'll figure out what it is for us. So, our plan is that we just want to present this idea, February, we want to get your approval on it. And then March and April, we're going to do focus groups and individual surveys on those questions that we've talked about. And it's two different things. Focus groups is much more of a brainstorm thing. If you've been in a good brainstorm session, and there are bad ones, but if you've been in a good brainstorm session, you've got 10, 12, 14 people in a room, you've got a couple of starter questions, and then people start bouncing ideas off each other. Well, what if we were a church like this? Oh, that's really, I'd never thought about that. We could do this. Oh, yeah, and then we could do this. And then Simone and I will be at all of those, and we'll be taking notes. Maybe we'll ask the questions, but we really won't provide much other than just jot down a whole lot of notes because we want you to be thinking about that. And then we're going to send you everybody an individual one that's anonymous, because we need some heart-to-heart here. We need some people to really answer some stuff. Because again, financially we're doing well, and I'll just say this: we shouldn't be doing as well as we are financially. There are people who continue to financially support Hope, and I'm not sure if they will because I don't know where they're at. Mentally, I don't know. Do they just love Hope and our mission? That's awesome. Then that's great. That's super cool. But if Hope continues to remain the size that we have been on Sunday morning, we won't last much longer. I got to say that out loud. We're really at that point. We were full here this morning. We had 55 to 60 people. Pre-pandemic, it was 120. We're half the size that we are in person. And again, if that means we're going to be an in-person and online church, that's great. Let's name it. Let's own it. Let's say, yes, that's the kind of church that we want to be. And then lean into that. Make that our mission. Do it even better. Reach more people. We can reach people all throughout the United States. But if that's our plan, if that's our choice, right? That's what we've got to start figuring out. So, we need to ask people, really, what's going on? Where are we at? That's the thought. Then leadership team would get back together and think about that stuff in May and June, try and do all that. There's a process that probably makes sense in terms of both how we present that and then get even more feedback. Like, once people have brainstormed and given individual information, then there's a way to present all of that to all of you and get even more feedback. And then maybe by fall, we're at a point of being able to say, all right, we've gravitated towards this. Now do you agree? Now, are we really ready to say, we're going to lean into this, fully into this? And we're going to start figuring out the building from that standpoint. We're going to start figuring out the staffing from that standpoint. We're going to start figuring out all that. But we can't do that until we've done all this previous stuff. So, there's a lot. And that's why, again, we're not voting on this. But I want to take questions on this, both today, and if that was way too much information, and you're going to have questions later, that's totally fine. That's why we're not closing this for a couple of weeks. So, if people have questions either online or here and in person, I'm happy to answer any of those that I can. Leadership team, finance team, that they can answer stuff if it fits more in their world. Do you remember the meeting last week or with the delay? So we'd say stuff and then the staff would stand up and wait until. So, yeah? Really, really good question. Yeah, again, thank you, Greg. I think we're all able to hear that. So when we get to it, we'll have mud wrestling to decide who wins, who doesn't. I was able to be part of something like this several years ago in a way that was super, super helpful. It's kind of old school, but the leadership team was able to kind of group things by by general category. All right, we've heard this, we've heard this, we heard this. We put it up actually on giant Post-it note pieces of paper, invited everyone from the church in for a while, and people actually got then little like red dot stickers to put those on the things that they gravitated towards. And it allowed us just to see now that we've got all of this, and we had done the work again of consolidating ideas, so that it made a little sense of doing that. And then from there, we, again, didn't just say, all right, that's it, we voted, we're done. But that helped us go, okay, now out of all the stuff that we've heard, we're narrowing it down to these things. And so we had a further conversation. All right, now it seems that people are really gravitating towards being in ice cream ministry, where we both serve and make the best ice cream in the world, right? Sold. But then, we had a further conversation within groups, right? Now, what does that look like? Where does that go? That step wasn't enough to get us to, okay, now we vote, but it did narrow those pieces way, way down so that when we got back to talking, we were talking about 5 things instead of the 50 that we initially had. Does that make sense? Okay. So I think something like that, again, would make sense. Cool. All right. Any other questions? Yeah?
I can't find the verse. I thought it was in Hebrews, but I don't know where it is. That says we shouldn't forsake the assembling of ourselves together. And rather than a question, it's my opinion that we should focus on getting people into the building itself, whatever building it is.
Thank you, Alice. Yeah, that is a beautiful verse. Let us not fall out of the habit of gathering together. It's one of those things that, for those of us that have done youth ministry, we've made that joke for years and years. As kids in confirmation ask, do I have to go to church in order to be a Christian? And the reality is, you need to be part of a community. And people hear that as law, not as gospel. Well, you just want me to show up at church. What if I miss one week? Am I going to, blah, 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 blah. You got to hear it as gospel. Jesus gathered a community together. Jesus was always in community. He was always trying to grow community. The early Christian church was about building community. That community doesn't have to be 2,000 people. It doesn't have to be more than what we are. If we decide, again, that we want to be a small community church, then if that's an intentional choice, that totally makes sense. That's great. Again, if we want to be an online community, that's fine. That works. That's, those are all choices. But to not be honest about that choice, to not really lean into that and talk about what that means. And again, I would say, I guess that's the question. I don't know. There are a lot of people that I think consider Hope their home community, but I don't know anymore. I really don't. And I want to be brave enough to ask them and say, either why is it why you're here, or why is it that you're not here? There's something about what we're doing, or again, the health or whatever it might be. But until we start asking that question and really getting real responses from people, we're not setting ourselves up to be, I think, the community that God is calling us to be. So we need to figure that out. Yeah.
Okay, so Sherry wanted me to share that she'd like Hope to have more fellowship time and activities to build internal community too. And it's hard to, Sherry said she'd like to hope to have more fellowship time and activities to build internal community too. It's hard to know congregational member needs, and that they've been here for 2 years and don't feel genuinely connected. Mm-hmm. And I recognize that part of that is the conversation that we're going to be having over this time. So I'm not sharing everyone's comments from here, but she specifically asked me to share that one. So
perfect.
Just building on what Alice said.
That's good. That's great. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Greg.
I kind of promised my wife I wouldn't say anything, but here I am. Sorry, Judy. I realize that I'm kind of a dinosaur, and as long as I've been to church, and it's been a long, long time, church has changed a lot. I remember when the big battles were over were you going to have a sound booth or not in a church.
Right.
And then the big battles over contemporary music versus hymns and all these other things. And there's been a lot of these little battles that are won and lost. And I recognize today that we are kind of at a nexus. You know, I mean, I don't do Facebook. I'll never do Facebook. I hate the idea of Facebook. I think it's stupid. But, you know, that's my opinion.
No, yeah. Tell us how you really feel, Ken.
I'm trying. I like community, right? And you've already heard me say this, Bill. You know, you want to go to a church where everybody knows your name. I want to go to a church where my best friends are going to the church I'm going to, right? And I know who they are, and they know who I am. And when I'm not there, somebody calls me up and says, why weren't you at church, right? Mm-hmm. And those kind of relationships take time to build.
They do. Yeah.
My point is I also recognize that young people today are way different than the dinosaurs like me. They just are. They like Facebook. Mm-hmm. They like doing stuff online. And that's how they communicate. They would rather text for a half an hour than just pick up the phone and call somebody. I don't understand that, but that's how people are. So, you know, and it can't be about what I want. It's got to be about what all of us want, because the church is going to meet the needs of a multi-generation now. And, you know, it's just one of those things that I think all of us have to get used to, because the reality is things are going to be different going forward.
Yeah. Thank you, Ken. The only thing I would disagree with you on is what you said there at the end. I think most churches believe that they want to reach a lot of different people. A church can make the choice to just reach one group of people. I mean, you can, but again, then intentionally make that choice, right? Like, you know, if you want to intentionally just reach 50 and over, then, hey, let's do it. And we'll recognize that we've got a window that is slowly going to shrink, and then when we're done, we all say, well done, good and faithful servant, and on we go. I mean, yeah, you can do that, but I don't think that's what we want to do. But if we're not brave enough to ask that question, if we're not brave enough to really talk about that, then I think we're unintentionally making that choice. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Good stuff. Any other good? Yeah.
What if we put out like an ad in the newspaper or something to attract people to come in?
Yes, yeah, that gets to, Sean had a really good question about like advertising, and that gets to some of the strategy stuff I think we would do at the end. Like once we figured out really what we're going to lean into, then yeah, we need to advertise accordingly. Again, I really don't want people to think this. The ice cream church, like, you know, we're the hypothetical ice cream church, right? Then, yeah, you've got to figure that out from a targeting standpoint, and you advertise that, and you do all that. That's important to do. That really, really is. But right now, I got to be honest. I feel like I don't know what I would advertise about Hope, because, you know, we're just trying so many different things. We've done that, so. Any other questions about this? I know we've got just the last couple things. Yes, Alice.
Have you and leadership talked about what age group? It seems like there's a lot of younger kids coming now. Is that what you mean by what you would appeal to? Or
yeah, focus and all that. Yeah, that's a really, really good question. Again, not necessarily intentionally, we have over the last couple of years tried to figure out how we do a better job of reaching people with younger kids. And we've done some of that, I think, well. We've stumbled into some of that as well. So we're thankful for that. But it hasn't been a whole church intentional choice, like kind of what we're talking about. And that's something that, yeah, we either need to do or not, yeah.
I know this is jumping ahead, but what part of the county has that age level?
Right.
Elementary and younger.
it is jumping ahead a little bit. But yeah, that is something that we would need to figure out, right? That, again, just to name it, yeah, Lake Stevens is the fastest growing community in our area right now. If that's something that really is important to us, if we look at Lake Stevens and say, they've got some great churches, but they actually don't have a church that's leaning into this, and we think that we would lean into that, then we would need to look at that and buy a postage stamp in Lake Stevens, because that's all that you can afford. Everyone would be meeting in the Wallace garage and be, tons of fun. Yeah, in Snohomish County right now.
Churches evolve on a regular basis, but I think the onset of the pandemic and living through the last couple of years has heightened that and made it even stronger, and we see that at our schools. We're missing students from our schools. Like my school specifically, we're down 200 kids from what we typically have.
Which is
we don't know where they've gone.
Right?
The children don't just disappear, right? But this pandemic has done a lot for our communities as a whole. So Hope isn't the only thing the only entity that's been impacted. But I think as leadership team, we've been having this conversation over the last year. What do we need to do? What are our next steps? How do we grow our congregation in a way? And that helps us grow. And the reality is, families help churches grow. Right? And so, and I can speak from being a previous sanctuary attender. We loved sanctuary, and it got to the point where Quinn was the only kid here. And we loved the people, and we hung on to sanctuary because of the people that were here. And it was a huge blessing because we're actually seriously considering, do we need to find another home church? Because Quinn cannot be, and Pastor Dave did a great job of including him and making him a leader and doing those pieces. But we want our son to have access to other kids and have instruction in faith that's geared towards kids. And so I think as a leadership team, we've been kicking around like, what do we need to do? And that's where we're at this point as a team, that we need to do that with the whole congregation. Who do we want to be? How do we want to be known? And how do we get there?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Well, and going off of that too, what I wanted to share was just how are we going to do those individual surveys? I like that idea of that, but making sure that we're getting to all those levels of those age levels as well, and letting them speak for themselves in some way as well, rather than just an individual family survey, because those younger members or kids that maybe aren't coming anymore, why, and finding out directly from them somehow why they're not coming. I mean, that includes my own children. I'm here by myself, and we need to be able to reach them and let them say in their own words, why are they not here? Why are they not coming?
No, you're absolutely right. And
What
that's
would
really,
help them to come?
That's going to be, I'll just say it so it's recorded in the minutes. That's a burden on Simone to figure out how that survey goes out.
All the surveys will be posted on Facebook.
Yeah.
Can I add something real quick?
Yeah, in the back.
It's just, and I'm not going to say this, or I might say this harshly. It's a burden on families as well. If you have children or something and you're the parent that has access to these, it's necessary that you give them the resource to be able to fill it out and follow through with that too, because kids don't always have the resource to that or the drive to do that on their own. So making sure that you follow through with them filling it out is the best way to make sure we get that whole family included as individuals and as a unit.
Yep. Thank you.
And that's the responsibility of the parents, and I'm sorry to just say that. It is.
No, yeah, it is. Thank you. It's good stuff, and I don't want to cut this off, but again, the whole point is that we continue to talk about this for the next month before we even then. At the end of the month, then we're just going to say, yes, now we're going to move ahead. Right? So please continue to ask questions. Me, leadership team, Simone, we've been talking about this a long time, and we want you to all start talking about it as well. There were just a couple updates that I need to give at the end. Some of that is related to that. From a staffing standpoint, in terms of where the staffing is at, we're just going to have a little bit of staff transition. Katie, who had stepped in so amazingly to help out with our 6th through 12th grade area, now has 2 little kids at home. and weirdly enough, seems to have less time on her hands. So strange. And so she's going to be stepping out of the staff role from that. We'll still help and volunteer, and we're very, very thankful for that. But we're going to be trying to figure out how we lean into that. Honestly, I admit I'm a little stuck in terms of that chicken and egg there. Do I want to fill that staff role right now, or do I want to have this conversation? Does that help us figure out how to do that? So I'm a little torn in terms of that. That's reality. From a custodial standpoint, too, we continue to try and find the right custodial piece. For that, we're working on that right now. If you have custodial suggestions, we might have that all resolved, but I've thought that for a few weeks now, and it hasn't been all resolved. So if you have some custodial thoughts, I'd appreciate that and where that might help out. Last but not least, Matthew Steele is also on staff now. I just kind of wanted to name that. He is our rental group liaison. We have got an amazing, amazing staff. They do incredible things. Matthew's job is hard. Thank you for being willing to work with all those different groups. We love that this building is able to be utilized by different groups, but there's a challenge in that. Every group has their own kind of unique makeup and what they do, so that's part of that. Some of that actually relates to the parking lot and some of the ministries that we were doing. Just kind of wanted to name those. If you've seen over there where Cars to Housing was, it is past tense. That was a ministry we were excited about, we thought might really work really well for us, and it just didn't for all kinds of different reasons. And no one's to blame. It isn't that type of a thing. In the end, Cars to Housing is still operating, and it's operating at the church it was initially at. They thought it was ready to split and to really be able to work well at two churches, and it wasn't, and so actually it was hurting the program by being at two different churches. So we just finally said, let's just stop us and move it all back to the other church so that the program works the way that it's supposed to be. So that meant, again, we had to take out the fence and all that. So Ken, Ken actually, I'm just going to totally out him because you outed yourself earlier. Ken showed up at Hope and he said, I'll help out as long as you never put me on a committee. So he was great. He went out and helped take down the fence and do all that. So thank you, Ken. I promise, again, you're not signed up for any committee. Never. All staff roles, super, super, very helpful. So again, Cars to Housing is still going, and we actually made financial donations to that to keep that going, that's the most important thing. And it not working here, it is what it is. The Amazon robots never came either. Oh well. So that kind of gets to the last thing. Again, we've tried a lot over these last couple years, and it's one of those things, again, depending on who you are and your personality type, when you try stuff, and we'll just name it, and it doesn't work, and it fails, that can be hard, no matter who we are. But we were pretty fortunate with our leadership team and with our staff team that we've just continued to try. We continue to try and ask. We've spent a little bit of money on some things, and when it hasn't worked, we go and lament at the coffee shop for a couple hours, and then we just get back up and all right, what's next? Let's go. We've been doing that for the last couple of years, and we will continue to do that. So, and that's what gets to this. We're not afraid of this conversation. What kind of church do we want to be? Not afraid of it at all. Because I love the people at Hope. I think we all, more than anything, want to tell people about Jesus. That's really what it's about. And so if we've got that as our heart, we'll figure it out. We'll figure out what kind of church we want to be. We'll figure out what kind of building. Buildings are easy. They really are. I've built buildings before. Right? It's a piece of cake. If we figure out what kind of church we want to be, then things will get fun. Then the next 10 years of hope, 20 years of hope, 30 years of hope, that's what we're looking for. All right? Closing word of prayer. Sadly, Matthew would tell me there's a rental group that's coming here pretty soon. So I know, wrap it up, Pastor. All right. So if you've got a question, why don't I answer it afterwards so that we can kind of make sure we get going. Yes? Jedediah, yes, I will. Absolutely. I will. Pray for him. Yeah, thank you. Very good. Let's pray. God, thank you so much. Again, thank you for this community that is around us, the people that we just bump into, we make connections with. There have been all kinds of people that have just walked through these doors, some of which we've known for days, some of which we've known for years. And to see a life change happen in them and quite honestly in us because of those relationships has been such a blessing. Today we do name specifically Jedediah. Pray that he gets the help he needs, that he is somehow able to take that first step of being sober for a day to where he can get into treatment and be sober for a lifetime. Pray that might be true. Give him that strength and let us help him in that process if there are ways that we can do that as well. God, as a church, as a broader church, trying to figure out who we are and what we want to be, it's tough. It's really tough right now. It is tough for all churches. But I will just name our little church community. We have been scattered about. We have connected online. We've connected in person. We've connected over Zoom. We've connected in small groups. We've connected in large groups. More than anything, dear Lord, I hope that you bring us together and give us the strength to bravely ask, what's next? What's next for us? What kind of church do we really want to be? And if we pursue that, if we go hard after that, if we really trust you in that, I absolutely believe all the other stuff gets easy, gets simple. It'll all happen the way that it's supposed to because we'll have you going before us and you going behind us, you on either side, guiding our every step. Pray that we do that this upcoming year and for years and years to come. In your name we pray. Amen. Perfect. Thank you all very much.